How's it going, everybody? Doing a gum chewing Week 14 NFL recap video today. Pretty good week in the season. Wild week. There was some upsets. For sure. I'll be drinking this exposed aloe vera and honey drink as well. But I don't know if I did a review on that, but whatever. The Thursday night game, right out of the gate, we get an upset. Pats beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh, 21-18. Pittsburgh drops to 7-6. New England goes to 3-10. Zappy. 3 touchdowns and a pick, 240 yards. Ezekiel Elliott goes for 68 yards rushing. Juju Smith-Schuster has 90 yards receiving, 2 TDs for Hunter Henry. Nice receiving game for Elliott as well, 72 yards receiving and a touchdown. They had 2 sacks. Jabril Peppers had a pick. Trubisky. Oh my god. Touchdown and a pick, 190 yards. He's their leading rusher as well with 30 yards and a touchdown. Deontay Johnson has 57 yards receiving and a touchdown for the Steelers. They get 2 sacks. Walker has the pick. It's 2 big losses in a row for the Steelers. They were sitting at 7-4, and then they lost to the Cardinals. And I think did they lose to the Cardinals at home too? Either way, those are 2 bad losses. Let's get to the Sunday games. Buccaneers beat the Falcons in that tight division, 29-25. Both teams are now 6-7. I'm probably tied for first place. I feel like every year there's a division that's just so bad, not so, just mediocre to slightly under mediocre. Like every year, I know the AFC West was that division for a couple of years in the kind of mid to late 2000s, and then like 2010 and about 2011, because Denver won Division 8-8, the Tebow year. And I think the Chargers won the division at 8-8 one year. That might have been that was one of the Cutler years. Denver was like 8-5, I think, and just lost their last 3 and missed the playoffs. Baker Mayfield, 2 TDs, no picks, 144 yards, 102 yards rushing for White. White also has a receiving TD. Mike Evans only a catch for 8 yards, so his first bad game. Godwin leads with 53 yards receiving. 3 sacks for the team. Carlton Davis III has a pick. Falcons could have actually taken control of that division, as crazy as that sounds, because that was a divisional game. Ritter has a touchdown and pick, 347 yards, so he's a solid game. He has a rushing touchdown as well, so does Robinson has a rushing touchdown. Drake London, 10 catches for 172 yards. Very nice. Kyle Pitts has a receiving TD. They actually fumbled 4 times and lost none of them, which is kind of rare. That's going to be a tight division till the end, honestly. It's going to be a tight division. Here's the upset of the week. Actually, no. It's tied. The Bears beat up on the Lions 28-13. Now, you remember earlier in the season, the Bears actually blew a lead real late, with 3 minutes left. Like a 10, 12-point lead and lost. So they could have the Lions twice. It could be one of those losses for the Lions where Lions are frauds, but I still think they win their division. So the question is, do they learn anything? They go to 9-4. The Bears go to 5-8. Bears are doing better too, as well. It's similar to Denver, in that they start off the season terribly and seem to be playing better. Goff has a touchdown, 2 picks, 161 yards, so he does jack shit. Gibbs and Montgomery both have 66 yards rushing. That's interesting. Gibbs has the rushing TD. Josh Reynolds has the receiving TD, as well as being their leading receiver with 44 yards. Glasgow loses a fumble. They did have 3 sacks. See how the old Bears did. Fields, touchdown, no picks, 223 yards. He runs for 58 yards and a touchdown. Foreman runs for 50 yards. DJ Moore runs for 20 yards and a TD. And he also has 6 catches for 68 yards and a receiving TD. Nice little game for him. 1.5 sacks for Justin Jones. Johnson and Edmonds have the picks. It's almost they kind of lost the Lions should have to see what they can do afterwards. And as a team later in this, at the end of this, that also might help. Bengals beat up on the Colts 34-14, so all of a sudden the Bengals are catching heat again. They both are 7-6 now. Minshaw, touchdown and pick, 240 yards. Zach Moss, 28 yards rushing. They did not rush the ball well. 1846. 95 yards receiving for Pittman Jr. The receiving touchdown was by Mo Ali Cox. Mackenzie fumbles once. No sacks. Ronnie Harrison Jr. has a pick for the Colts. Browning gets in there with 275 yards, 2 TDs, and a pick for the Bengals. The Bengals doing all right. McCarron gets in there 1 for 1 with -1 yard. Mixon, 79 yards rushing and a TD. Browning also has a rushing TD. I guarantee he was getting picked up on the waiver wire like crazy. I remember real late. Well, no, not late, but I did fantasy football for, gosh, I think 10 or 11 years. And I want to say 8 of those years. It was a 10-team league twice, then an 8-team league. We lost 2, and then it became a 14-team league for the remainder of the time I was in it until it ended. So the waiver wire was such a big deal when you have a lot of people doing it. Mixon has 79 yards rushing and a TD as well. Chase Brown, 80 yards receiving and a touchdown. Hudson has the other receiving TD for the Bengals. 3 sacks, and B.J. Hill has a pick. Bengals are coming on now. That final playoff spot in the AFC is going to come down to like 8 teams. You might see like 3 or 4 teams with an over 500 record miss the playoffs. A lot of this is going to be like 3 or 4, 9, and 8 teams, I bet. Browns beat the Jaguars 31-27. So the Jags I think they've lost 2 in a row now. They are 8-5 all of a sudden. Still have a game lead in their division. Browns are 8-5 now as well. As a Denver fan, I guess I would have preferred to see the Browns lose that game. Denver did beat the Browns, but they're a game up on them, so that tiebreaker means nothing. Trevor Lawrence, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks, 257 yards. Etienne Jr., 35 yards rushing and a TD. Ingram has 95 yards receiving and 2 TDs. Parker Washington has the other one. Parker Washington also lost a fumble. Just 1 sack, and Darius Williams has a pick. Joe Flacco, 3 TDs and a pick, and 311 yards. Nice throwback game for him. Ford, 51 yards rushing. Kareem Hunt, 27 yards rushing and a touchdown. What happened to him? Like, I thought he used to be really good. Is he not having a good year? I don't know. I can't say this guy's last name. 2 receiving TDs, 91 yards. David, I don't know. I'm not even going to try to say it because I'll fuck it up. Amari Cooper has 77 yards rushing. David Bell has the other receiving TD. Flacco and Cooper both lost fumbles. 4 sacks. 2 picks for Emerson Jr. It's taking shape here with 4 games left. Saints beat up on the Panthers 28-6. Panthers sitting there, they're going to have the worst record in the league, and they don't have their first round pick, right? Similar to Denver last year, but I think Denver ended up giving up the 3rd pick to the Seahawks. Bryce Young, no TDs, no picks. Sacked 4 times, 137 yards. Hubbard, 87 yards rushing. Miles Sanders, 74 yards. They actually ran for 204 yards as a team. Thielen leads with 74 yards receiving. 2 fumbles. Young and Hecker both fumble. Eddie Pinheiro has the field goals and the points for them. Derek Carr, 2 TDs and a pick, so I guess he's back on 119 yards. So they're 6-7 as well. Now the Carolinas obviously out of the playoffs already. They're in last in that division. The 3 other teams are 6-7. I don't know what the divisional games are looking like between those 3 teams: the Saints, Bucks, and Falcons. But it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be tight, I should say. Kamara, 60 yards, 56 yards rushing at TD. A.T. Perry has a catch for 44 yards, and he's their leading receiver. Olave and Graham. Jimmy Graham with another TD. That is Jimmy Graham, right? Yep. He's 37 years old now. He has 4 catches for the season, and 3 of them are TDs. That's awesome. She use him in the red zone, right? They did have 4 sacks, no picks. So you can have a tight 3-way. Max 9-8 is going to win that division, I would think. It's going to probably be 8-9 ends up winning it. Especially if those 3 teams play each other. Jets beat up on the Texans 30-6. Zach Wilson had a hell of a game, I know, because I live on Long Island, so. What's his name did get hurt? Stroud. I think he got concussed. There was controversy with something Zach Wilson said or something shit. I don't know. Stroud was 10-23 for 91 yards and sacked 4 times. He wasn't doing much. But he did. I know he got concussed. I think it was a concussion, at least. Singletary, 65 yards rushing and a TD. No receiving TDs. Brevin Jordan has 3 catches for 35 yards. 2 sacks for Grenard. They dropped 7-6. The Jets are 5-8. Zach Wilson, like I said, this probably was one of his best games, at least, of his career. 301 yards, 2 TDs. No picks. Brees Hall, 40 yards. Rushing, Gibson has the rushing TD. 108 yards receiving for Wilson. Brees Hall has 86 yards and a receiving TD. Randall Cobb with a receiving TD also. Zach Wilson lost a fumble. 5 sacks for the Jets. The Jets do have a great day, so. The Jets have a bunch of talent, and they still really do need. If Rodgers did not get hurt and played a full season, and even if he wasn't his typical Aaron Rodgers because he's older, but he was still a solid QB, their record would at least be flipped to 8-5, if not fighting for their division. Ravens and Rams in a 37-31 thriller that the Ravens win in overtime. Stafford, nice game for him. 3 TDs, no picks. they're 6-7. Baltimore's 10-3. Williams 114 yards of rushing for the Rams. Cooper Kupp has a TD and 115 yards receiving. Allen and Robinson each have receiving TDs. Witherspoon has a pick. Lamar Jackson 3 TDs and a pick, 316 yards. He also rushes for 70 yards. He's their leading rusher. Beckham Jr. a nice game, 97 yards receiving and a TD. Likely and Zay Flowers have the other receiving TDs. 2 sacks. I think the cat's trying to get in here. Here's the game of the week. I thought the last week, was that last week where the Pats lost 6-0? Well, the Vikings win over the Raiders this week, 3-0. When's the last time there was a 3-0 game? It's probably last year. I assume not much happened in this. We don't have to talk about TDs. Vikings are 7-6. Raiders are 5-8. Mullins throws for 83 yards for the Vikings. Dobbs throws for 63. Dobbs was sacked 5 times. Mattinson 66 yards rushing. They actually ran for 132 yards. As a team, Hawkinson 53 yards receiving. They had 4 sacks. Pace Jr. has the pick. O'Connell 171 yards and pick. He's sacked 4 times. Josh Jacobs has 34 yards rushing to lead them. Devontae Adams 53 yards receiving. 2 lost fumbles for the Raiders. Max Crosby has 2 sacks. They did get 5. Let's see. '49ers beat the Seahawks 28-16. So you have 2. Yeah, I mean, I think the San Fran's pretty much locked that division up. Seahawks dropped to 6-7. So the Niners are 10-3. Drew Lock actually starts this week. I sometimes miss Drew Lock, even though Russell Wilson is actually having a good year this year. But he never got a fair enough shot with Denver. I don't know how he would have turned out. But he was okay. But the year they started Bridgewater over him, which made sense because he was probably better in the preseason. But they probably should have just said, Lock, here you go. We'll see what you can do through 4 games or something. But he has 2 TDs, 2 picks. 269 yards. Charbonnet, 44 yards rushing. DK Metcalf has a receiving TD. So does Parkinson as a receiving TD. Tyler Lockett has 89 yards. Receiving the lead. They get 3 sacks. Julian Love has a pick. Brock Purdy, 2 TDs and a pick, 368 yards. 145 yards rushing for McCaffrey. Jordan Mason has a rushing touchdown. Deebo Samuel with another rushing TD. Deebo Samuel also has a nice receiving game, 7 for 149 and TD. Kittle has the other receiving TD. Brandon Ayuk has 126 yards receiving as well, so he also lost a fumble. Nick Bosa, 1.5 sacks. Brown and Warner each have picks. Greenlaw somehow had a pick for 16. No picks for 16 yards. I don't know what. I was just saying, but he would have gotten his pick if he fumbled it. They wouldn't have given it to somebody else. I don't know. All right. Bills beat the Chiefs 20-17 in Arrowhead. There was controversy this game. It was actually an offsides. Dude toe was offsides. It was a touchdown, I think, to Kelsey, but he was technically offsides, and then Mahomes flipped out. I'm going to tell you this about the Chiefs. They almost need this because they've never really faced any adversity. I think they said that Mahomes has never even played a road playoff game. That's most likely going to happen this year. He's actually definitely going to probably play a road playoff game. You never know, of course. They almost need it. And of course, people, honestly, I don't, whatever, people getting on Mahomes because apparently the Chiefs get calls and he's not complaining when other teams get. But this is football. Every team has benefited from a call or been fucked by a call. It's just because if you watch a certain team the most or you see they're in prime time a lot, you see them a lot, it seems that it goes that way, right? I've watched enough Denver games, Giant games over the years where they screw up. Sometimes they get lucky with a call. Sometimes it goes against them. Unfortunately, that's how it goes. But they lose, and they just don't look good. The Chiefs, I know their running back was out. Pacheco, Josh Allen has a TD and a pick, 233 yards. Cook, 58 yards rushing. Josh Allen actually has 30 yards rushing TD. Cook had the receiving TD and 83 yards. But this is what the Chiefs kind of need. They've just been so good that they haven't had to worry about really a clear path to a Super Bowl, or at least an AFC championship. And now you're going to see what they can do. It's kind of something you need, right? Let's see what happens. Mahomes has a TD and a pick, 271 yards. 39 yards rushing for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. McKinnon has a rushing touchdown. Kelsey, 83 yards receiving. Rice has the receiving TD. But 8-5. Denver's only a game behind. Man, if Denver just beat the Texans last week. The scary thing is the Chiefs have to worry about having a team right behind them that's a game behind, which they're usually not typically used to. The last 4 or 5 years. The Chargers did make the playoffs last year. I don't know how close they were in the division. No, probably not. You find out what a team like the Chiefs is made of. Because they've been so good, all of a sudden, they don't have many, if any, good receivers. All of a sudden, you start losing games. You see if they can take it. At the end of the day, they will still, they'll still win the division. And I'll have a home playoff game, at least one. I mean, you never know. Denver's got, the Bills are 7-6 too. Denver has a tiebreaker on them. But it adds a little something. Like I said, they've been so good that they've just been like, okay, we're going to breeze through the regular season and have at least 2 home playoff games before the Super Bowl. One time, right? Has it been 4 times he's been? No, wait. No, I guess when he lost to Brady, the Patriots, they would have had home field that year too. Because I thought they said he never played a home playoff game. I don't know, whatever. But when you're, I don't know why I'm talking about the Chiefs so much, but when your team that's considered the best and they've won 2 Super Bowls and gone to 3 in the past, 4 years, all eyes are always going to be on you, either with the love or the hate. That's how it goes. That's how it was with the Patriots, the 49ers back in the day, And then you have teams that are just like have a history. The Steelers, they have a lot of love in it. It's just how it goes. They have a pretty weak schedule to end the year, though, I think. Broncos beat up on the Chargers 24-7. This is actually probably the best game the Broncos have played all season. Broncos 7-6, Chargers 5-8. People are getting on Jerry Jeudy. He dropped a TD, I think. I did not see it. Russell Wilson, 2 TDs and a pick, 224 yards. Javonte Williams has his first rushing touchdown of the year, 66 yards. Sutton has another receiving TD and 62 yards. People are getting on Jeudy, and I remember, I think it was Steve Smith said Judy's like a 3rd receiver, and he really, honestly, he is. Like, I expected that guy to be a lot better, especially because I think he was the first receiver taken in that draft over Jefferson, Lamb. It's not even that he's bad, but he's not even there like number 2. Like, you can't even rely on him as a number 2. So now Troutman had receiving TD on like a classic, like old school play that, of course, Sean Payton drew up. Fooled the whole team. He's just standing in the end zone by himself. But they're 7-6. I just want to see them go over 500. If they missed the playoffs, so be it. At least they're competing, and hopefully they have a chance in all the rest of the games. The rest of the season actually matter. Jonathan Cooper has a pick. Herbert got hurt in this game, too. He was sacked 4 times and threw a pick in 96 yards before he got hurt. I think he hurt his finger. Easton Stick. That has to be... They had to have given them that name on purpose because of the hockey sticks. Or Easton was a hockey stick maker. I don't know if they still make them. He was sacked twice. Eckler had 51 yards and a TD rushing. Quentin Johns had 91 yards receiving. He was that leader. He lost the fumble stick. Who had the sacks? Michael Davis had the pick. Who had the sacks? Denver's D all of a sudden is good again. Wow, they had 6 different guys had sacks, so that's cool. Justin Simmons actually got a sack in there. And Justin Simmons, I think, was hurt for a little bit, so maybe he coming back actually helped the defense that much. Or Vance Walker, what's his name, defensive coordinator, figured it out. Cowboys blow up the Eagles 33-13 now. I think they're technically in first place now. So now all of a sudden the Eagles are on fraud alert as well. I love the NFL, how ridiculous it gets. Hurts 197 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Swift has 39 yards rushing. A.J. Brown, 94 yards receiving. Hurts, Brown, and Smith all lose fumbles. Reddick did have 2 sacks. Prescott, 2 TDs, no picks, 271 yards, having a hell of a year. Dowdle has a rushing TD. Pollard has 59 yards of rushing to lead them. Lamb has a TD, and so does Gallup. Ferguson was a leading receiver with 72 yards. He spreads the ball around pretty good. 7 catches for Pollard out of the backfield. Prescott fumbled once. They only had 1 sack, so it looked like it was just beat him up. So now that's going to be a battle to the end of the season as well. Now let's get to the second big upset of the week. The Pats beating Pittsburgh's kind of, it is an upset obviously, but it's not as big as those other 2 were. The Bears beating the Lions and the Titans beating the Dolphins 28-27. I believe the Dolphins were up like 2 touchdowns with like 3 minutes left. And all of a sudden they're on fraud alert now because they got to play, I think they have to play the Cowboys and the Ravens. Didn't the Dolphins kind of stumble at the end of last year too? I know Tua was going through the concussion shit. Yeah, they were up 27-13 with the 4:34 mark. Wow. That's a bad loss for the Dolphins, especially because you're going for home field throughout as well. Levis has a touchdown to pick, 327 yards for the Titans. 2 TDs for Henry rushing, only 34 yards. DeAndre Hopkins, 124 yards and a touchdown. So Dolphins are 9-4. The Titans are 5-8. Levis and Garrer lose fumbles. 3 sacks for Landry III. And of course, because it's football, same thing with the Chiefs start to stumble. Not even stumble, they're 8-5, right? And all of a sudden they're complete shit. Dolphins lose a game. 2 is complete shit. This is how the NFL is, you know. When you're winning, everything's great. The second you lose, you're the biggest piles of shit to ever walk the face of the earth. That's how football's always been. Trade this guy, cut them. He deserves to be fired. You know, like what? Wait till they lose 3 in a row. 2 had 240 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Sacked 5 times. Mustard, 96 yards rushing, 2 TDs. Waddle, 79 yards receiving. Hill only had 61 yards receiving, but I think he did get banged up. He played, but I don't know what happened to him. 2 lost the fumble. But that's what happens. Now the Dolphins have to play you have 2 more tough games coming up. I think you have to play the Bills as well. Let's see the Dolphins' schedule real quick. Not the team stats. But as a fan, though, you're like, oh shit, here we go. You're 9-3. You lose a game you should win, and all of a sudden, everything could fall apart. Football is a pain in the ass. Just because it's like, so there's not a lot of games, so it's like, oh my god, 2 losses in a row, you could be screwed. They got the Jets too. Is not going to be an easy game. They'll probably win it, but Jets, and they get Dallas at home, and then they go to at Baltimore, and they do have Buffalo at home, so they have to hope that they take it. If they go 2-2, they'll be fine. In reality, the Bills game's the one that's the big one. Because if they just beat the Bills and the Jets, they'd win the division. And look, this is what it says on ESPN. Stephen A. Smith says, can't blame people who consider Dodgers Dolphins fraudulent. It's what they talking heads. It's so. I understand you have to talk about it, but it's like, dude, it's the same shit every year. This team's a fraud. They aren't. He sucks. Oh, now he's great again. Oh no, he sucks again. But he's great. That team's a fraud. They're back. Fraud. Oh, they won the Super Bowl. Oops. That's part of the reason I started to lose interest in football as well. I was just like, I can't deal with the analysis. You know, Denver was the biggest piles of shit. And they only lose 70-20. All of a sudden they're 7-6, and they're fucking, oh, this is how it's gonna. It's like, what? This is week ends with the Giants beating the Packers 24-22. They're 5-8. Packers are 6-7. Tommy DeVito again. Oh wait, that's Jordan Love. A touchdown to pick, 218 yards. Jaden Reed, TD, 38 yards. Rushing, A.J. Dillon at 53 yards rushing. Kraft, 64 yards receiving for the Packers. And didn't the Packers beat the Chiefs last week? It doesn't matter. Denver loses by 50 and gives up 70 points for the first time, if ever. I can't remember. But in a long time, if it ever happened. And somehow they're 7-6. Week to week, it doesn't matter. Nixon and Love both lose fumbles. DeVito, a touchdown, no picks, 158 yards. Barkley has 86 yards rushing and 2 TDs. DeVito actually ran for 71 yards as well. Robinson, 79 yards receiving for the Giants. Hodgkins. 22 yards and a touchdown. McCain and Barkley both fumbled. They had 2 sacks with Giants, and it was half sacks. 4 guys, that's funny. So that ends the week. Denver's got to play Detroit next week. That's going to be tough. That's why I think they can do it. What's that? Email. Oh, look at this. Speaking of the something on Monday night, I don't know what the referee's ridiculous delay was, but Troy Aikman blasts the referees. Someone's always getting blasted or slammed. There's another word they use too. But you're usually getting blasted or slammed. I don't know what the refereeing was in the game, so I don't know why they were getting blasted. Let's see what Week 15 holds, real quickly. Chargers play the Raiders on Thursday night. I'm sorry, that's Week 16 it decided to jump to for some reason. Bengals and the Vikings, so I want the Vikings to win that game. As a Denver fan. Oh, Denver's on Saturday. There's 3 Saturday games. Steelers and the Colts, whoever loses that game, whatever, it's going to help Denver. Although one team will move ahead unless Denver wins. Denver's got the Lions. It's going to be tough. I want to see the Bears beat the Browns. Titans beat the Texans. I mean, yes, I want the Patriots to beat the Chiefs, but that's not going to happen. Cowboys can beat the Bills. That'd be nice too. Although Denver does have a tiebreaker. Let's be honest. If Denver gets into playoffs, I don't think they're making much noise, if any. It'd be nice to see, but whatever. But yeah, that's another recap video of the NFL. So now we find out who the frauds are, you know, until next week, and teams are done, and who's this guy's done, that guy's done. Until next week, they rip it up and everything's back to normal. And the talking heads act as though they've never said anything. That I never said that. It never happened. It's just like, but that's why it's great that people have video of all this shit, so they look like idiots at the end of the season. But yeah, thanks for checking this out, and have a good day.